You're being sold a dream, a brand new home, a fresh start, a booming neighborhood. The realtor is smiling. The paperwork looks clean. The mortgage is approved. And not one single person in that entire chain is going to tell you the most important thing. This city is running out of water faster than your down payment is losing value. Welcome to our 2026 road trip through America's real estate time bombs. We've driven the country from end to end, from the sinking shores of Florida to the bone-dry mountain ridges of Colorado. And we found 10 cities where the water crisis is already written into your mortgage in fine print. This isn't an environmental manifesto. This is a financial warning, because the real cost of a home isn't the number on the listing. It's the water bill. Every single month. For the full length of your mortgage, some of these cities are running dry because of drought. Some because their pipes are a century old and crumbling. Some because salt water is literally eating their aquifers alive. Some because the state government looked at the math and quietly stopped issuing building permits. The details differ. The danger is the same. So hit subscribe. Not for us, for you. Think of it as the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever find against buying a house that turns to dust. Let's go. 10. Jackson, Mississippi. You start your road trip in Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of the state, a city of graceful antebellum architecture, tree-lined streets, and a history that runs deep into the American South. At first glance, it feels calm, almost sleepy. The median home price here, according to Zillow, is sitting around $170,000, one of the most affordable housing markets in the entire country. That affordability is not an accident. It is a discount, a price cut for a risk that nobody is putting in the brochure. Jackson's water system serves more than 71,000 connections across roughly 150 square miles of territory, and it has been in a state of near-permanent crisis for decades. In August 2022, the city's main water treatment plant simply stopped working. Nearly 180,000 residents across Jackson and surrounding areas were left without reliable drinking water. The National Guard handed out bottled water in parking lots. Hospitals scrambled, schools closed. In the aftermath, control of the system was handed to a third-party federal operator. But in October 2025, the City Council passed a resolution demanding the water system be returned to local control, while federal officials and city leaders are still arguing about who is responsible for the pipes, the funding, and the future. You are not buying a house in Jackson. You are buying a seat at the table of an unresolved political fight over whose job it is to make sure water comes out of your faucet in the morning. Is $170,000 truly a bargain if the most basic utility in the home cannot be guaranteed? 9. Richmond, Virginia. You drive north to Richmond, a stunning historic city on the James River, 2 hours south of Washington, D.C., with federal-style architecture, a booming craft economy, and a housing market that has consistently outperformed the national average. According to Redfin, the median sale price in the greater Richmond region is around $390,000, one of the fastest-growing markets on the entire East Coast. Fast-growing. That phrase is going to feel different in a moment. In January 2025, the power to Richmond's main water treatment plant failed during a winter storm. The result was a multi-day boil water advisory that hit not just Richmond's 230,000 residents, but also the entire surrounding counties of Henrico, Hanover, and Chesterfield. Restaurants shut down. Businesses lost tens of thousands of dollars. People stood in lines for bottled water in freezing temperatures. The official investigation that followed found that the plant had been operating in a stripped-down winter mode, relying on a single power feed with no backup redundancy. The diesel generators were useless because they required manual start and were tied to the same failed circuit. Backup battery systems were past their design life, and staff knew they didn't work. The report called it institutional complacency. The Virginia Department of Health called the entire crisis completely avoidable. Then, in May 2025, Richmond issued a second boil water advisory, this time from clogged filters at the same plant. Twice in 1 year. In a city with a rising housing market and no shortage of buyers, would you pay $390,000 for a home in a city that issued 2 boil water advisories in a single year, both of which were declared completely preventable? 8. Atlanta, Georgia. You head south to Atlanta. the financial and cultural capital of the American Southeast, home of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, a sprawling, ambitious metropolis that brands itself as a world-class city on the rise. According to Zillow, the median home value in Atlanta is currently around $380,000, and it's down 2.3% from last year. Prices falling in a growing market. That usually means something. In the summer of 2024, massive pipes buried beneath Atlanta's streets, some of them nearly a century old, burst in the Vine City and Midtown neighborhoods. The failures left tens of thousands of residents without water for days. Officials declared a state of emergency and issued boil water advisories. The mayor stood at a press conference and said, "When a city has 500 water main breaks and leaks in a single year, you know you have a problem." The scale of that problem is now officially on the books. Atlanta has committed to a $2 billion 20-year plan to replace hundreds of miles of pipes and rebuild its entire drinking water infrastructure. 20 years. That is longer than a standard 15-year fixed-rate mortgage, and the pipes will keep aging throughout. In February 2025, Georgia's Environmental Protection Division fined Atlanta nearly $300,000 for violations at its water treatment facilities, including discharging inadequately treated sewage into the Chattahoochee River 21 separate times. In the latest City Council report, the number of water main breaks decreased 11%, but the number of sewage spills increased 11%. One step forward, one step back. Every year. Is a $380,000 home in a city that needs $2 billion just to fix the pipes beneath it a bargain, or a liability disguised as a lifestyle? 7. Miami, Florida. You fly into Miami, gleaming towers, ocean drive, billion-dollar yachts, a city that feels like it exists purely to make money look glamorous. The median home price here, according to Zillow, sits above $600,000, and it has dropped 4.3% over the past year. That makes Miami one of the biggest price declines among major U.S. cities, according to Zillow's January 2026 market report. When a luxury market drops 4.3%, something is happening under the surface. In Miami's case, that something is happening literally under the surface. The Biscayne Aquifer is the primary source of drinking water for 2.5 million residents of Miami-Dade County. It is a shallow, porous limestone formation, and it lies directly at sea level. For decades, saltwater from the Atlantic Ocean has been slowly creeping inland, pushed by rising seas and pulled by heavy groundwater pumping. The saltwater interface is moving, and it does not move backwards. Recent monitoring data shows that chloride levels in some wells have risen from around 250 milligrams per liter in the late 1990s to 600 milligrams per liter in 2024. Communities like Dania Beach and Hallandale Beach have already lost wells entirely to saltwater intrusion. Once a well goes salty, it does not come back. The only alternative is desalination, an energy-intensive, wildly expensive process. And who pays for that? You do. Through escalating water bills that are already among the highest in Florida. Through special assessments. Through rate hikes that are not optional and do not go away. You're paying over $600,000 to live on the ocean. What happens to that investment when the ocean starts coming out of your tap? 6. Denver, Colorado. You head west into Denver, the mile-high city. Craft breweries, mountain views, booming tech sector, outdoor lifestyle that attracts transplants from every corner of the country. According to Zillow, the average home value in Denver is around $558,000, down 3.6% over the past year. And according to Redfin, Colorado statewide prices dropped 2.2% in early 2026. Denver sells itself on the mountains. But the mountains are the problem. Denver water depends almost entirely on mountain snowpack to fill its reservoirs and supply water to 1.5 million people across the metro area. As of April 13, 2026, snowpack in the Colorado River Basin, where Denver captures its water, stood at just 35% of normal, the lowest ever recorded for that date in 40 years of data. Snowpack in the South Platte River Basin was even more alarming, 4% of normal. Also a record low. On March 25, 2026, the Denver Board of Water Commissioners declared a Stage 1 drought and demanded a 20% reduction in water use citywide. Not later this summer, not if things get worse, but immediately, in late March, before the summer heat has even arrived. Stream flow forecasts for 2026 predict runoff levels of just 10 to 40% of normal. And to pay for the infrastructure needed to survive this new reality, Denver Water raised rates again on January 1st, 2026, part of a planned $1.7 billion investment over the next decade. That money comes from somewhere. It comes from you. Are you buying a home with a mountain view? Or a home in a city where the mountains no longer deliver enough water to keep the lights on? 5. Las Vegas, Nevada. You drive into the Mojave. After hours of nothing, the skyline rises out of the heat like a defiant hallucination. Las Vegas. A city built on spectacle and impossible odds. The median home price here, according to Redfin, sits in the mid-$400,000, a tempting number for buyers priced out of California. But you're not buying a home here. You're placing a bet against basic hydrology. Southern Nevada enters 2026 under Tier 1 water shortage restrictions from the Colorado River, a 7% cut to its full allocation. The Southern Nevada Water Authority is quick to reassure that current customer use will not be impacted. And that's technically true. But the reassurance conceals a much larger truth. The entire water system is already running at maximum efficiency with zero margin for error. Nobody conserves water better than Vegas. They pay residents to rip out their lawns. They recycle 99% of all indoor water used in the city. They have water cops who will show up at your house for a leaky sprinkler. This is a world-class conservation operation. And it still isn't enough to remove the shortage declaration. Meanwhile, climate scientists warn that by the end of 2026, water temperatures flowing into Lake Mead may rise to nearly 11 degrees Fahrenheit above historic norms. If inlet temperatures exceed a critical threshold for more than 3 consecutive days, power generation at Hoover Dam could be curtailed to prevent permanent infrastructure damage. That is electricity for entire states, generated by the same water that supplies your home. While residents are fined for overwatering a cactus, the city continues to welcome 40 million tourists a year and approve new residential developments. You are being asked to sacrifice. The economy is being asked nothing. Is Las Vegas's water management a model of genius innovation, or the world's most high-stakes gamble? 4. Phoenix, Arizona. You drive southeast into the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix. Nearly 5 million people. Half a century of explosive growth. The definitive poster child for the American Sunbelt dream. The median home price, according to Redfin, sits just under $430,000. And it has fallen 2.3% over the past year, according to Zillow's January 2026 data. The sales pitch that built Phoenix was simple. Move here, get a house you can afford, and live your best life in the sun. That pitch is now officially dead. In 2023, the Arizona Department of Water Resources did the unthinkable. It announced it would stop issuing new building permits in the Phoenix area for developments that rely solely on groundwater. The reason? After years of rigorous modeling, the state concluded there is not a guaranteed 100-year water supply to support that growth. The projected shortfall is 4.86 million acre-feet over the next century. And a 2026 research analysis of Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Denver, 3 major Colorado River Basin cities, concluded that even the most aggressive demand management techniques may not be sufficient as temperatures rise and the river's flow continues to shrink. This was not an environmental group. This was published scientific research. Existing homes still have water. For now. But their value rests on the promise of a surrounding city that continues to grow. And that growth has just had its legal and hydrological foundation pulled out from under it. The planned subdivision next door? The school down the street? They might never be built. The water for them simply does not exist on paper. Is this the moment the Phoenix growth machine finally breaks? Or will they find a technological miracle before the music stops? 3. Colorado Springs. Colorado. You drive an hour south of Denver and arrive at Colorado Springs. In the shadow of Pikes Peak, with military bases, a growing tech sector, and access to some of the most spectacular wilderness in North America. The median home price here is around $440,000, a compelling alternative for buyers who find Denver too expensive. A little quieter, a little more affordable, a lot more exposed. Colorado Springs is the largest water provider in the region, and it was one of the first cities in Colorado to implement Stage 1 drought restrictions in the spring of 2026. Restrictions include outdoor watering limits twice per week, permitted only before 10 a.m. or after 6 p.m. This isn't a future scenario. This is a rule in effect right now, in a city where you are considering buying a home. The city depends on snowpack in the mountains above it. The same snowpack that, as of April 2026, is at record lows. A study published in April 2026 concluded directly that water conservation techniques that worked in the past may prove inadequate as droughts become more intense and the Colorado River's flow continues to weaken year over year. This is not a fringe warning. Jason Ullman, Colorado's state engineer and director of the Division of Water Resources, said publicly in March 2026, "This year is particularly tough." When the state's top water official says that in March, before summer even begins, you should listen. Would you pay $440,000 for a home beneath a mountain that can no longer be counted on to supply enough water to run the city below it? 2. Los Angeles, California. You head west to the Pacific. Traffic on the 405. $1 million homes. Impossibly green lawns baking in the California sun. Los Angeles. The median home price here, according to Zillow, is hovering just under $960,000. It has dipped about 0.5% over the past year. Barely a tremor on the surface of a real estate market that still feels untouchable. But in January 2025, the Palisades fire tore through one of the most expensive neighborhoods in America and exposed something that should terrify every homebuyer in Los Angeles. When firefighters needed water the most, the hydrants went dry. An analysis of the disaster revealed that parts of the city's water system were simply never designed for the scale of wildfire now driven by climate change. The infrastructure was built for urban spot fires, not for sustained high-volume firefighting across entire hillside neighborhoods simultaneously. The system ran out of pressure, it ran out of flow, it ran out of water. And homes burned that might otherwise have been saved. This isn't just an environmental tragedy, it is a financial catastrophe. Insurance companies are already pulling out of California in large numbers. If the water system cannot protect your home from a wildfire, what does that do to your homeowner's insurance? To your property value? To your ability to get a mortgage at all? And on top of all of that, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California has already approved water rate hikes of 8.5% for 2025 and another 8.5% for 2026, along with the first doubling of its property tax water assessment in over 30 years. These are done deals, not proposals, not maybes. They are baked into your future cost of living the moment you sign. If the water system cannot protect your $960,000 home from fire, why are you paying $960,000 for it? 1. Thornton, Aurora, Colorado. This is it, the end of the road, the grand punchline, the single most dangerous real estate decision you can make in America right now. And it's disguised as a perfectly reasonable one. Denver is too expensive. So you look at the suburbs, Thornton, Aurora, Broomfield, new construction, good schools, fresh sidewalks, and home prices ranging from $450,000 to $550,000. A real deal compared to Denver proper. Thousands of people are making exactly this calculation every single month. Here is what those buyers are not being told. Thornton's water treatment plant processes more than 25 million gallons of water per day during the summer months, enough to fill roughly 40 Olympic swimming pools. In the spring of 2026, it became one of the first cities in Colorado to implement drought restrictions. Its water supply relies on reservoirs fed by snowpack in the upper South Platte and Clear Creek basins. That snowpack, as of April 2026, is at 4% of normal, the lowest ever recorded. Even though our storage looks okay today, said Abby Ortega, the general manager of Thornton's Utilities, what's coming into our reservoirs this year is deeply concerning. The city is implementing restrictions now, in April, before summer demand has even peaked. Officials are watching those snowpack numbers and preparing for a summer unlike any in recent memory. You buy a starter home in a brand new development surrounded by empty lots that are supposed to become parks, schools, and more homes, pushing your property value up over time. Except the research published in April 2026 says that even the most advanced water management techniques may not be enough as the Colorado River weakens and temperatures rise. The growth model that justified your purchase is being quietly undermined by the same drought that is causing your restrictions today. You are not buying a home in Denver's suburbs. You are buying a ticket in a queue for water that is getting shorter every year, in a city where that queue was never supposed to run out. If Colorado's top water official calls April 2026 particularly tough, what will August look like? And what does that mean for your home in 10 years? So there you have it. 10 cities. 10 completely different ways to sell you a dream home on the edge of a man-made water crisis. We've seen cities where the pipes are a century old and crumbling. Cities where salt water is silently eating the aquifer alive. Cities where the state itself looked at the numbers and stopped issuing building permits. Cities where the fire hydrants ran dry while houses burned. Cities where snow no longer falls the way it used to, and where that is now your problem, not the developers. Research published in early 2026 confirms that the problem of water insecurity in American cities is expanding in scope and severity, moving beyond the obvious Sunbelt markets to affect a broader and broader range of places, including Portland, Houston, Atlanta, Dallas, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and more. This is not a regional crisis, it is a national one. And it is hiding in the fine print of your mortgage documents, your property tax assessments, and your monthly utility bills. The true cost of a home is not on the listing. It is the sum of every water rate hike you will pay, every restriction you will live under, every infrastructure project you will be taxed to fund, and every dollar your property loses in value when the water crisis the city officials are managing quietly goes public. The question is not whether you can afford the down payment. The question is whether there is enough water in that city to last as long as your mortgage. Which of these cities surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe, because the uncomfortable truth is always cheaper than a bad piece of real estate.